Okay. So let's spend a few minutes because I was just in Spain. I don't know if you haven't been reading some of the thoughts I've been sending out. So let's talk about two of the leading figures, I mean, who lived in Spain. As I mentioned, historians estimate we don't have historical records like today, like from the Middle Ages like we do today, but it's amazing how much we can reconstruct. So we know that there are some 90, I mentioned about 90% of European Jewry lived in Spain in the Middle Ages. In other words, it's way bigger than Ashkenaz. The Ashkenazic population became bigger than the Sephardic population, really only with the population explosion in the 19th century. In other words, Ashkenazic Jews were living in Western Europe. So the Western world had modernity. Modernity meant better healthcare. So there's population explosion. So the Jewish population exploded. The Sephardic Jews at that point, 17, 1800s, are living in more, I don't know how to say it nicely, backwards countries. They didn't modernize. They didn't have this population explosion. So it was only in the 19th century that Ashkenazic Jews surpassed Sephardim. And today in the state of Israel, they're more Sephardim than Ashkenazim. In America, they're more Ashkenazim than Sephardim. But in Israel, excuse me, in Israel, they're more Sephardim than Ashkenazim, and that's the way it was throughout most of our history. The Sephardic populations were bigger than the Ashkenazic population, and for sure during the height of Spanish Jewry. Part of the reason is also because there was less persecution of Sephardic Jews. If you, I know it's since 1948, the world has changed a lot. But pre-1948, you wanted to live in an Islamic country, not in a Christian country. Jews were expelled from every country in Christian Europe. England, France, Germany, Austria, you name it, we were expelled. And this expulsion from Spain was, of course, when it was a Christian country. The flourishing of Spain was when it was a Muslim country. I mean, again, that's an oversimplification because it was, sometimes the Muslims were awful and sometimes the Christians weren't bad. But as a whole, it's much better to be under Islam than under Christianity. And Spain, Spain, all the Rif, the Rambam, all the people. I mean, they outside of Rashi, and I don't want to make a list like who's greater, but I mentioned in the quote and the thought I sent out this morning. It was like I don't know in the middle of the night, I guess, in Canada, so I mentioned that codes is a Sephardic idea. Ashkenazim didn't write codes. The Balei HaTosfot, the Tosafists gave commentary, and from the commentary you can derive certain laws, but they didn't write codes. There was a tremendous opposition to the writing of codes, as we'll see on the Rambam in a moment, because codes are confining, are constricting. If you write a code, you have to the U.S. courts have to rule. Well, there was some court in Idaho made some ruling, 28 years ago. That's a precedent. That's what it says here in the code, or the Congress passed some law, and we're stuck, even though we don't like it. So codes tied people's hands, even though we do find people disagree with them a little bit. So there was a lot of opposition. The idea was that a rabbi, every competent rabbi, should figure out the law on his own. The problem is, to be a competent rabbi is to figure out new cases is next to impossible without codes. I mean, you got to know if you're the Vilna Gaon or the Khatam Sofer, or that's okay, or a Moshe Isserles. But if you're a normal rabbi who learned for 20 years, maybe not a normal rabbi, if you're a rabbi who learned for 20 years in Kollel and you're above average intelligence, there's no way. I mean, what are we going to do? You're going to, every time, you got to figure out the Gemara, go through all the authorities. It's crazy. It's insane. So that's why we have codes. It's much easier. The Beit Yosef, when I mentioned Rav Yosef Karo, first wrote a commentary on the Tur. I don't know, has anybody ever learned the Beit Yosef? Can I have a show of hands? Those who I can't see, you can clap your hands or something. Anybody read the Beit Yosef ever? No one read the Beit Yosef? Beit Yosef is Rav Yosef Karo, the host of Joseph. The Beit Yosef is like 90% of the page, maybe 98% on some of the page. What's a response? A response is a response of a question sent to a rabbi, a practical question. That's called, in Hebrew, shelot v'tshuvot, questions and answers. By the way, there is a big question: what's more authoritative, shelot v'tshuvot or codes? Because sometimes the Rambam will contradict himself. He'll write one thing in a code and one thing in a responsa. So you would think the responsa are more authoritative because they're answering a practical question. Codes are not dealing with practical issues, dealing with generic issues. A Sheila b'tshuva is a specific question, a response to a specific answer. But those are collected. Like very often today, when you look in the Shulchan Aruch, they'll quote the Tshuvot, the Trumat Hadeshen. That's Rav Yisrael Isserlin, who lived 150 years earlier in Germany. So they'll quote what they said, and they'll put it in their halakhic work. But anyway, that was a Sephardic approach. Codes made life a lot easier. I have no idea if it relates to the fact that Sephardim were working and they don't have time. You don't have as much time. What I mean by a code? Okay, so a code like the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. That's a code, I guess. The IRS rules. A code is, I don't know, what are a legal code? You go to law school and they give you the book of business ethics, some codification of law. The Parliament passed all the tax acts. Those are codes of law. In Jewish law, there are basically four primary codes, maybe five, depends how you count. A code is basically when you learn Talmud, and that's what the Tosafot did. That's what I'm saying in Ashkenaz. The Tosafot just for commentary. The Talmud is all over the place. It's edited with great precision, but in other words, the tangents of the Talmud are planned. They're not stum. They're real tangents, but they're related to what's going on. They're there for a reason. But if I want to learn the laws of Shabbat, even though there's a tractate Shabbat that's 155 pages, double-sided pages, if I'm not mistaken, who learned Daf Yomi recently, I think, and a lot of the laws of Shabbat are not in Masechet Shabbos. They discuss somewhere else. So no topic is ever covered in one place exclusively. It's spread all over the place. That's what made art so hard. So the codification was the Rambam. What he did was beyond belief. He gathered together the laws of Shabbat that are presented in 16 different places, and he put it all together. This is the conclusion, all the conclusions of all these places. And sometimes he had a rule because the Talmud will quote two opinions, so you have to pick which one we're going to follow. And he would seamlessly put that together in a code. So codes will follow the laws of Shabbat, the laws of commerce, the laws of neighbors, the laws of taxation, the laws of Lulav, the laws of Yom Kippur, you name it. So so that's a code. So the codification in what the Ashkenazic rabbis did is they didn't write codes. They just commented on that page of the Gemara. So you have to learn the whole Gemara to know. You have to learn the 16 different places where the laws of Shabbat appear. And that's the Masoret Hashas. If I'm not going to share my screen, I don't have it in front of me, maybe. But you know what? Give me half a second. I'm going to do this, if you don't mind. Let me show you, since people are asking. I'm not going to come. It's not going to be normal. Give me a second here. Let's go. Okay, let's go to Daf Yomi. I'll show you I always show you on Sefaria. So that's like nice, a modern translation. But that's not how a page of Gemara actually looks. The traditional way. So today's Bava Basra. So this is the Talmud. So you see on the side, everybody see this? Today's stuff. Where's the Masoret Hashas? This is blocking me. So the Masoret Hashas, they really ruined the system. The Masoret Hashas, this thing up here. Everybody see this in the upper right-hand corner? These are cross references. This circle, the way they do it, they have little letters. So it's a cross-reference. Where does this same topic, where does this phrase appear somewhere else in the Talmud? This is an unbelievable source that somebody put this together, Rav Yoshua Pick, if I'm not mistaken, 16th, 17th century. I don't remember that exactly when, having the Shardaf is like in the beginning of Talmud, without a computer here. And he tells you, Lekaman Kafe, and it's very hard to read. Forward on Daf 25b. Bava Metzi, we're learning Bava Batra, but the next source is Bava Kama, Bava Metzi, Kuf Yud Zayin with one dot means 117a. So this topic or this phrase appears in Bava Metzi 117a. It also, this appears in 22b and 25a, etc. So they cross-reference you. It's very hard, unless you know the entire Talmud, you don't know where the cross-references are. So Masoret Hashas is unbelievable. That somebody could do this without a computer is mind-boggling. And to show that he's human, the person who did this without a computer is a human being. If you look in this, take out your Vilna Shas, so take out this Talmud. So some of the Masoret Hashas, the traditional way was not to put it at the top of the page. Traditional way is to put it parallel to where the quote was. But all the new Talmuds, they have this new stuff. It bothers me immensely. I can't learn this way. I need the Masorah Shas. Like my eyes go to the side of the page. Now I have to follow the letter to the top of the page. It's much harder, and I don't like it. And I think how Art Scroll, this traditional organization, can change the way the daf looks. They always are traditionalists. That makes me upset. No, what can I do? But if you look in the traditional things, some of them are in square brackets. What happened is Yoshua Pick was a genius. He knew how to have a photographic memory to do this whole thing without a computer. But he missed them. This phrase appears. He missed one of the 12 places it appeared. He didn't remember it when he learned it. So somebody went in later and added in, and they put it in square brackets. This was later added in. Today, with a computer, you can, do it in 4 seconds. But amazing. These people were computers. So that's how the Ashkenazim, they just learned the Gemara, and that's it. Just commentaries. The code gathers it all together. And that was only Sephardim. There are 4 basic codes in Judaism. I'll have to continue this next week, I see, because, number 1 is the Rif, which is a fake, I don't want to say fake code. That doesn't sound right. The Rif is a code. In other words, that he tells you what the law is. He does do that. He goes through the entire Talmud, but he doesn't put it in a code like all the laws of Shabbat. He just follows the page of the Talmud, and he cuts out all the stuff that's not bottom line law. He just puts in the bottom line law. He doesn't give you all the back and forth. So when you read the Rif, you're like reading the Talmud in the same order, but you're getting what the legal conclusion is. So it's not exactly a code, but for many hundreds of years, the Rif was very popular. Many Jews learned the Rif instead of the Talmud. The Talmud is too confusing and back and forth. You want to know what to do, just learn the Rif. But the Rif, you have to go through the entire Talmud to get to what he's doing. The 3 other, what we call the 3 other basic codes are the Rambam, the Torah, and the Shulchan Aruch. They all put it all together. So, well, just briefly discuss the Rambam, then we'll come back to him. So the Rif dies in 1038. I believe the Rav Yitzchak Al-Fazi. I wrote about it in one of my, when we were in Morocco. He lived in Fez, Morocco, the Rif. And he dies in 1038. Rashi's born in 1040. The Rambam's born in 1138 in Cordoba, Spain. We were there. We saw the statue. It's, they have a whole museum of the Rambam, which, I didn't know a lot of works he wrote. The medical works, they have all his medical works that he wrote listed, and philosophical. Amazing. It's hard to believe the Rambam was a human being. It is hard to believe he was a human, that he was only one person. But anyways, the Rambam is 1138. So he writes the most comprehensive code in Jewish law. We'll come back to that. And then the next code is the Tur. That's what I wrote about a little bit and what I sent out this morning. The Tur, the Beit Yosef did write the Shulchan Aruch. That's what I'm coming back to. So the Tur, Rav Yaakov Bal HaTurim, is called a Tur means a row, because there were 4 rows on the breastplate of the high priest in the temple with 12 stones, the 12 tribes. So the Tur wrote what he called the Arba Turim. He divided Jewish law into 4 major sections: the Orach Chaim, Yoredeya, Choshen Mishpat, and Even Ezer. Orach Chaim, the way of the world. That's daily law. You get up in the morning, it goes through your life from when you get up in the morning until you go to bed at night. The laws of tzitzis, the laws of tefillin, the laws of Shachrit, Birkat HaMazon, all that we live, and then it goes through all the holidays: Shabbos, Pesach, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, and it ends up Purim, because Pesach is the first holiday of the year, Purim is the last holiday of the year. So that's Orach Chaim. Yoredeya is basically Jewish law, ritual Jewish law. So that's basically kashrut, mikvah. It's interesting what else is in it. If we were spending 10 weeks on the Shulchan Aruch, we go into more detail. Choshen Mishpat is commercial law. Choshen Mishpat is the breastplate. The name Choshen Mishpat, meaning the true way to get close to God. That's where the Urim and Tumim, that's where God spoke to man, is through our business ethics. That's the highest level, more important than our rituals. So that's Choshen Mishpat. And Even Ezer is family law. So there's the Torah divided Jewish law into 4 sections. Along comes Rav Yosef Karo. The Torah went with his father from Germany to Spain. You can read what I wrote about it just now. And he becomes basically Sfaradicized, whatever, I don't know what the word is. He becomes a Sfaradi, as I assume he was a young child when they went. And the Torah writes this code of Jewish law. The Torah, when was the Torah born? His father, the Rosh, was born in 1250 and died in 1327. So let's say the Torah is born, I don't know, in 1280. I made that up, but basically beginning of the 14th century. That's when he's flourishing the Torah. Rav Yosef Kar is born in 1488. I always ask my students at chat. Rav Yosef Kar was born in 1488. How old was he when he moved away from Spain? And people sit there. How old was he? I don't know. So I don't want to ask you. I don't want to embarrass anybody. Tova, how old was he when he moved away from Spain?
4.
4, because the Jews were expelled in 1492. He was born in Toledo, where the Rosh was born in 1488. He eventually makes his way to Israel, and he spends 20 to 30 years. I don't remember exactly it's not exactly a writing for every line on the tour. Where does the tour get this from? And he goes through the Gemara from the beginning to the end. It's massive, massive, massive. The Tour Beit Yosef, they call it. He wrote a commentary. There's the Prisha, other commentaries. Again, if we ever do this as a longer, section, this is just an introduction. We could go into more details. Then he probably realized no one's going to ever read this. Like it'd take you forever. I don't know, no one, but there is a debate really among scholars. Did he expect people to then learn the Beit Yosef and then the Shulchan Aruch? The Shulchan Aruch is a summary. It's like 1/100th of the size. The Shulchan Aruch is bare bones, a set table. This is what I do. No explanations, no nothing. It's the most concise, bare bones code there is, and it's the most accepted code that we have. That's where all the commentaries wrote. So it's not very few people. In yeshiva, you learn a little bit of Beit Yosef. It depends who. I mean, big Gaon Eolam, the greatest rabbis, of course they learn the Beit Yosef. But the average rabbis, you learn a little bit of Beit Yosef here and there. It's too long. It's enormous. So then he wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch, and he said, how long should it take you to learn the Shulchan Aruch from beginning to end? He wrote it as a practical guide, a set table. You learn very quickly. How long was it supposed to take you to review it? The entire Shulchan Aruch from beginning to end. Anybody know? He gaber ka'ari. He starts wake up like a lion in the morning, get excited to worship God. How long did it take you to learn the Shulchan Aruch? 30 days. 30 days. I don't know anybody who does it in 30 years anymore, but 30 days to learn the Shulchan Aruch. Because he didn't think there'd be a Ramah and a Shach and a Taz and a Beit Shmuel, and he didn't think there'd be 5 million commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, but that's what happened. So, but there is something to be said for that. Maybe just learn the Shulchan Aruch in 30 days, and that's the code that became the most accepted. The Mishnah Berurah is a commentary on just the first section, the Orach Chaim of Shulchan Aruch. There's been sort of only one code written since. I say it depends how you count that. That's we kind of, I don't know, we need a new code. The code, why do new people? Because new developments, new things happen. So that's been a code in 500 years. The Aruch HaShulchan, I guess, is the closest thing. He called it there's the Shulchan Aruch, and the Aruch HaShulchan, that's Yechiel Michal Epstein. He was a rabbi in the Vordak. He wrote a sort of updated Shulchan Aruch. It's a fantastic work. It's really a fantastic work, but people don't learn it so much anymore. I don't know why exactly. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, my understanding is Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Rav Moshe Feinstein, all the great rabbis say average people should learn the Aruch Shulchan, not the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah is for Talmidei Chachamim, for whatever, for yeshiva people. Mishnah Berurah, first of all, is much stricter. It's much more machmir. Aruch Shulchan is like, I don't want to say, he's normal, don't have all these chumras. And the Mishnah Berurah was, somebody once told me this. There is truth to it. Maybe it's not nice, but it's true. You don't want a tzaddik writing a book of halacha. The Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim was a tzaddik. It was when we think of the Chavetz Chaim, we don't think of him as a legal scholar. We think of him as all the stories, how righteous and pious and never talking lashon hara. It's very nice. But that's not the person I want writing my book on Jewish law. I want someone who understands that people do talk lashon hara. I mean, he probably did understand that. That's why he wrote the book. But you understand, he is very strict because you're going to be the most careful. So he'll quote, he changed practices all the time. Rav Schachter told us that he never learned Mishnah Berurah till after he was married. It's kind of amazing. Just learned the regular Shulchan Aruch. And after he was married, his wife he told us the story. You can share. I remember it. It was like mind-boggling. He was already in his late 20s and never opened up a Mishnah Berurah in his life. And his wife brought him a Mishnah Berurah as a birthday present. And when his wife gave birth, that's when he took it to the hospital for one of the babies. That's what he told us the first time he opened up. And he started reading it. And he said, oh my God, his hair stood on edge. You have to know his style of humor, Rav Schechter's style of humor. So he read it. He said, "Oh my God, a Reform rabbi." every page he changes what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says A, it's allowed, and he goes, no, there's a this opinion here. Let's be more careful, and he's very machmir. But the Mishnah Berurah is not a code. The Mishnah Berurah is a commentary on part of the Shulchan Aruch. The Aruch HaShulchan is an independent work that goes from the beginning to the end. Also, he develops the halakha. It's very beautiful. It's a little long, not as long as the Beit Yosef, not long like that. But so many of the great rabbis say, just follow the Aruch HaShulchan. And the Aruch HaShulchan was a rabbi, like of a community, and the Mishnah Berurah was a Rosh Yeshiva, basically. If you read Chaim Soloveitchik's article that I quote all the time, Rupture and Reconstruction, part of the theme of his article is the difference between the Aruch HaShulchan and the Mishnah Berurah, going from a mimetic tradition to a text-based tradition. The Aruch HaShulchan very much would defend practices of the people, regardless of what it says. The most famous example is his, not that he doesn't approve of it, but he gives a justification, explanation why women don't cover their hair anymore, and therefore you're allowed to make a bracha in front of a woman uncovered hair. He always likes to justify people. The Mishnah Berurah, what does it say in the text? That's why he changes a lot of things, because people didn't care what it said in the text. They learned from their mothers and fathers what to do. They weren't Torah scholars. People didn't go to yeshiva the way they go today. But they lived in an observing community, so they learned from their parents. This is what we do. The Mishnah Berurah changed all that. And that's Chaim Soloveitchik's basic article, a very, very important article, Rupture and Reconstruction. But anyway, so the Aruch HaShulchan, so like I said, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky from Rosh Hashanah, you should learn the Aruch HaShulchan. A guy in yeshiva sitting in Kollel, he wants to be a very pious on that. Okay, he can learn the Mishnah Berurah. Anyways, that's it. Those are the basic code. There hasn't really been code. We have all these books, Shmirat Shabbat Yochata, we have these halachic books, but that somebody's written a comprehensive code, it's sort of impossible today, because what makes a code work? People accept it. Believe me, as there was tremendous opposition to all of these codes, especially the Rambam and especially the Shulchan Aruch. The people were very upset, and there was a competing code during the time of Shulchan Aruch. The Levush, I don't know if any people heard of the Levush, Rav Mordechai Yaffe. I believe he wrote a competing code, and he had 10 divided Jerusalem into 10 sections, the 10 commandments, whatever, and he lost. The Levush, when you learn yeshiva, you heard of Levush. And the Mishnah Berurah will quote the Levush sometimes, but that was a competing code, and the Aruch HaShulchan, whatever, for it can be the style of writing. There are all kinds of quirks of history. The printing press, maybe you're right, when the printing press gets invented, all kinds of quirky reasons. One teacher wants to think because the Rav Yoskar was the only one who lived in Israel, that's why it was accepted. I don't know. I'm not such a Zionist that way, that I believe that says it's the hand of God because he lived in Israel, or what, I don't know. So why certain books are, so there were other codes, but these are the four major codes that we have today. Just let me quickly look at the question, because I'm not going to have time at the end to look at the question. Beit Yosef read the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch is a bowdlerized version. It's a much shortened version. Code is again to regulation with respect to law. Okay, good. Are you in Budapest? Yes, I am in Budapest. That's what I said. In the Steinjo's edition of the Talmud, he shows the relevant halacha in a separate section of the page. Correct. What happened? This is also a major thing. This is something Rav Shechter couldn't stand. I mean, he thought this was terrible. The whole Brisker style of learning, which has captured the world, which is how they learn in Gush and many, many places around the world. Black Hat Yeshivas, non-Black Hat Yeshivas, the Chaim Brisker. They've split halacha and Gemara. They're two different topics. The way Rav Soloveitchik talks about halacha is like the way Mark Shapiro, halacha is like a car mechanic. You have to know what to do. So so the car runs. You got to know. But halacha, the way Rav Soloveitchik defines halacha, it's concepts and ideas. And there's Rav Chaim. He always say Rav Chaim said Hilchot Kashrut is not about pots and pans. It's about ideas and what it represents, and conceptualization and categorization and definition and scientific analysis. And somebody said, you know what, Hilchot Kashrut, you got to know if the pot and the pan is kosher. Don't give. But the Brisker method is taught. But the problem is the Briskers can't paskin halakha. It's really true. The Hungarians, where I am now in Budapest, they could paskin halakha because they didn't have this whole style. They learned other, because the Shulchan Aruch, you always see the Brisker style. So the Rambam and the Ravid have a debate. So until the Briskers, again, I'm oversimplifying, until the Briskers come along, What happens? This one brings proof why the Rambam's right, why the Ravid's right. So everybody tries to prove who's right. The Brisker, no, 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 no. The Rambam and the Ravid, there's no right or wrong. They're both right. They both have they have two different ways of looking at something. There's a concept here. It's not that run is right or run is wrong. So the problem is you can't and give a halachic answer because everything always has like and everything has two different ways to look at it. At least that's the story I've said before that Rav Chaim Brisker sent a question to Rav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector, who was the great posek in Lithuania, the one who Yeshiva University is named for. Reads Rav Isaac Elchanan, the theological center, Elchanan Spector of Kovno, and Rav Chaim sent him a question. He said, "I want a yes or no answer." Which is not normal. You're supposed to give explanation in order that other rabbis said, no, I think you're wrong. I think your explanation is incorrect, and therefore I don't follow you. Rav Chaim said, I don't want an explanation because whatever explanation you give, I can for sure give a counter explanation. If you tell me why it's allowed, I'll tell you why it's not allowed. If you tell me why it's not allowed, I'll tell you why it is allowed. So I can't live like that. I don't know what to do. So give me a yes or no. I accept your authority. So the Briskers have sort of changed halacha, have removed halacha and Gemara. They're like two separate subjects. They learn halacha. Rav Schechter was this year. I was in. He does not for him. This, even though he was one of the top students ever, Rav Soloveitchik. Yeah, the purpose of learning Gemara is to know what the halacha is. That's why you learn Gemara. That's what the Rif did. That's what they all did. We learn Gemara to know the halacha. It's not some conceptual nice thing in the heavens, and you're in the science lab doing research. And that's how Rav Soloveitchik really finds it. It's very exciting. It's very beautiful. It's very scientific, analytical, but it's a very different approach to halacha. Anyways, okay, let's spend 5 minutes on the Rambam because I do want to get to the Dohani for 6 o'clock. Your father davened at Kaczynski. Somebody's writing to me privately. I davened at Kaczynski Wednesday night. I had Yortzei Wednesday night. They let me daven. I went and I told him the Kaczynski shul. That's the Orthodox shul. We can talk about that another time. And I was talking about they made me put the talus over my head. I'm in Hungary. For my I didn't have a hat. I don't own a hat. I mean, I do in the winter, but I don't own a hat that people use when they daven. Anyway, so yeah, Kaczynski, we're going to daven a Rumbach tonight. If people know the shuls in Hungary, shuls are named based on the street they're on. So if you live in Toronto, the Bathurst Street Shul and the Bathurst Street Shul and the Bathurst Street Shul and the Clark Shul so that's how they name shuls in Hungary. Rumba, Kaczynski, Dohani, they're all streets. Where are hotels on Dohani Street? I mentioned this morning, literally from my hotel in Budapest, there's 6 kosher restaurants, at least 4 shuls and 2 kosher supermarkets within a 10-minute walk up here. You walk the street, you think you're walking on, I don't know where. Unbelievable. Israelis, Jews, Hasidim with payas, they come here to visit the Kfarim. Unbelievable what you have here. It's like, there are 100,000 Jews. Listen, we can talk about that another time. Let's just talk very, very quickly on the Rambam because otherwise I'd be lying a little bit. So I said he was born in 1138. Just a couple features of his code. So one thing, the mission. Why did the Rambam write his code, and why did he call it? That's all we have time for this week to talk about. The Rambam. No, the Briskers. Maybe the Briskers don't really learn halakha. Correct. They study Talmud. It relates to halakha, but that's not their expertise. Even though Rav Soloveitchik, he came to America, he did Paskin Shilas a lot. But go to Rav Moshe Feinstein. I'll tell you the theory. It's a theoretical construct. It's like there's theoretical learning and practical learning. So the Briskers have the theory, and the theory, they have different theories, different way to look at it. It makes it come alive. It's beautiful. How do I understand the concept? Take any concept in Jewish law. How do we understand why a sukkah more than 20 feet? Not because it's a sukkah, but it's no good, or it's not even a sukkah. And then what's the nafkamina? You make a chakira. That's what they call it. You make sure if you ask this question, and then what's the difference? If you say it's not a sukkah at all, it's like this, and if you say it is a sukkah, but it's no good. I made that one up off the top of my head, but I think that is one of the chakiras they have. Does it mean it's not a sukkah, or it is a sukkah? It just means sukkah is invalid, like they do. Maybe that's not a great example. I can think of one good example very quickly. When you forget Yalla v'Yabo at Mincha on Rosh Chodesh. You have to daven Mariv twice. Because if you don't, if you forget one davening, you can daven the next davening twice. When you daven the second davening twice, what happens is you um, you daven the davening you're at. So it's not going to be Rosh Chodesh. You forgot Mincha, Rosh Chodesh to the Seyela V'Yavo. So I have to repeat the Shmona Esrei. But now it's too late. So I'm davening Mariv. So I'm repeating that's the question. I have to repeat, but I didn't repeat the Shmona Esrei. So I have to Mariv church. Well, depends. What does it mean? I forgot Yala V'Yavo. I'm gonna I'm going to repeat it by not saying Yalav Yavo. I already davened without saying Yalav. So what's the point of repeating it? So the question is, when you forget Yalav Yavo, it doesn't mean I davened, but I forgot Yalav Yavo. In which case, I don't have to repeat it because when I repeat it, that's what I'm going to daven without Yalav Yavo. Or you say, no, I didn't daven. If I forgot Yalav Yavo on Rosh Chodesh, I didn't daven. I didn't daven. Then I have to repeat it again. I don't know if I hope I explained that half decently. Then we'll have to pick up on this. But just let me say the Rambam wrote the Mishnah Torah to copy the Mishnah. He saw himself following in the footsteps of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, that Jewish law had become very complete, complex, and he had to summarize it all, which he did an unbelievable job. And what we'll do is, please God, we'll pick up on this discussion next week. It will probably be approximately this time. Next week, I should have a full hour to speak. I'm sorry we were out and around. I am so. I hope you'll forgive me or thank me for making this a much shorter share. As you know, I don't like to miss share, so I can be in Buddha wherever I am. I like to try to teach them. I thank you very much for coming. I'm greatly appreciative that 2 hours late and people are here. So please God, we'll continue. I'll send you the exact time. It should be a full hour though next week, but we'll continue on this idea. So if you have any more questions, we'll do with Rambam and stuff from here that comes up, and then in 2 weeks, please God, we will continue back to our sitter. Just let me see if there are any more questions. Is that relevant today? I'm not sure what you mean is what's relevant is today, but the Brisker Derech is very, very popular. I'm not an expert on it. I can give you books to read about it, but who learned today relevant? Which yeshiva in America? Oh, yeah. In other words, most in the Hasidic world, I think they learn much more for practical halakha. There are certain communities, like I said, in Hungary, they learned much more practical halakha. But the Lithuanian approach, which is where most of these, we say in Israel, the Lithuanian, what's it called? Not Shas, that other party, United Torah. There's the Lithuanians, because they were the ones who had the most yeshivot. So the Lithuanian approach, that's where they have the Brisker approach. They didn't have it in other places. Okay. What is my derech? I don't know. I hope I'm on the right derech. Derech Yisharashi of Borlodom. That's I hope. And I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom from Budapest, and everybody we should hear good things. And please God, we will see you next week, and then we'll let you know the exact timing. And thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you. Thank you.